Curtis A reached out to me, said make a theme song for my show. Said alright, just give me all the details, man. And my homie says he don't know. Well, if you're gonna pay me big bucks, cause I might should have something to say. He said, you know what I bring, I'm the customizing king, nothing else matters anyway. So is he gonna have guests? I don't know. Is he gonna go live? I don't know. What time will it be? What will you see? I'm pretty much in the dark, but I can guarantee he'll be customizing action figures, getting paint all on his fingers. It's art by Akerman. It's art by Akerman. Tips and tricks and conversation, sharing his gift with every nation. It's art by Akerman. Art by Akerman. You best get ready, cause now it's time for Art by Akerman.
All right, folks, welcome back. Got another exciting show for you. This is a new segment we're going to be doing called How'd They Do That, where I will be talking to some artists in the community that are known for either a certain custom specifically or a certain type of custom. And then we'll be talking to them about how they accomplished it, so that if you want to do something similar, you know, you got a little head start, little tips and tricks on how to do that. So I knew for my first one, I wanted to bring on a friend, somebody to make this a lot easier for me, you know, to kind of go through and kind of set the bar. So I reached out to a good friend, Eric LeBron. So let's bring him on stage. What's up, Eric?
What's up, my man?
How you doing?
I'm doing great, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. So one of the things that I think, you know, obviously you do a lot of different customs. You bring a lot of great stuff to the cons, especially Legion's Con. Like, you know, your table is just amazing.
Thank you.
One thing that I've seen a lot of and people have commented on is the gargoyles and stuff that you do, like the stone effect look that you achieve. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Let me go ahead and pull up this slideshow, throw us down below. So let's go to the first one here. So now tell us a little bit about this, because this is kind of your start to this, right?
Yeah. Before I got into Mythics customizing or Mythics collecting at all, I was big into building Gundam model kits. So I was doing Gundams, and sometimes you do different types of weathering effects or whatnot on Gundam kits. And one of the ideas I had when I built one was to make a sort of like a diorama, like a park themed diorama where people were visiting a park, and in that park was a statue of a Gundam. And so instead of doing a crazy paint job on a model kit, I ended up painting this one in like a primer gray to make it look as if it was just a statue standing on a pedestal. Now that was like my first try at making anything that had sort of like a stone effect to it. So that's where it started from me, or for me. Yeah.
And then where or how did it evolve from there?
From there, once I started collecting Mythic Legions. Obviously, the first intention was just to collect, pop and swap, do whatever. A lot of my big intention was to photograph, because I started also getting in huge into toy photography, and I started doing a lot of toy photography with the Mythic Legions. And then as it evolved, I came across obviously Jeremy, who was pretty much the only name out there that was putting out literally dozens and dozens and dozens of different style customs. I came across his gargoyle customs that he did, and I don't know, I just fell in love with the idea. It looked like an awesome way to completely change the look of the characters, whatever they may be. And I reached out to him, and I got his recipe on the one he actually did that he brought, I believe, to his first internship that he shared with the Four Horsemen studio. And I got the recipe for that one, and I did an actual recreation of the almost a duplicate of it to see if I can challenge myself and make one for myself to see how it came out. And after that, I just fell in love with the concept and pretty much how easy it was. So I just went from there, and it just kind of became a staple in my wheelhouse as far as like customs that I create or make. I just like making them. I just think they look so cool, and everybody enjoys them, and they're always fun. And then they really started getting popular, especially when the gargoyles toy line from NECA started coming out, and people started really recognizing them and saying, "Oh wow, those remind me of gargoyles, the cartoon series or whatever. So I've just always kept it, like I said, in my wheelhouse. It's just one of those things that's a really fun, really easy custom to do, and I think it, like I said, it changes it so dramatically that it's one of those things when you look at it and when you stand back compared to what it started as, you're just like, wow, like that really looks different, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's a lot of what I'm trying to do with this channel is to, help people try new things and learn from others. I started similar to you where I, checked out what Jeremy was doing. He had a lot of early videos. He had his website up with all these different recipes and stuff. And I mean, I was never a really artistic kid growing up. That wasn't
Mhm.
my forte. And so everything that I've picked up over the last 3 or 4 years has been from different things that I've learned from different people, YouTube videos and people in the community and stuff. So I appreciate you being on to kind of talk about this and even talking about how, you picked it up from somebody else. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
let's continue that. Let's take a look
Yeah.
here. So this is a figure that you kind of piece together with some different parts from other figures and then paint it. So yeah, talk to us about how this came together.
Yeah, so this is actually the first gargoyle that I did. This was actually the recreation from the recipe that Jeremy gave me from the one that he had done. So it's got parts from Masterverse Motu figures. It's got parts from the feet are from some Marvel Legends figure. I don't recall which one at the time, but
Mhm.
obviously the body and the arms and stuff were from a Purplore figure, and the legs and stuff like that. But yeah, this is basically what it looked like broken down before anything happens to it. And then obviously the next picture is the finished product of what I was able to create from that recipe that I got from Jeremy. And I was just, like I said, I was just astounded by, like I said, how dramatically the difference is from where it starts to where it ends. You just take a step back and you're just like, whoa, I did that. Like, that's great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just the way, it's a real wow factor when you step back and look at something that you've done like this. And it's
So now, obviously, you're using some different parts from different figures here and stuff. But if somebody were to try this, and let's say that they were using just one figure, they weren't using a bunch of different figures,
mhm.
you still, with this technique, would you have them break it down similar to you have here before you start painting, or how would somebody go about starting if they wanted to do one of these?
I think it's a personal preference if you'd like to break down your figure completely. I would recommend it to any customizer, whether you're old or new to the customizing world. I would definitely recommend breaking down your figure because it does give you the chance to actually see and feel how the figure breaks apart, what it looks like in all its pieces, and it kind of just gives you a better reference of like what you're working with. And to me, it's a lot easier to get all the little nooks and crannies filled with either a primer coat or a paint coat when it's pulled apart like this, rather than trying to, you know, let's say prime an entire figure and then you paint and then you move the arm a little bit and you see a completely like a, Dayglow green stripe of paint, undercoat paint that's still there that you never touched. And I mean, that ruins a custom to me. So I'd rather have it pulled apart like this.
Gotcha. So talk to us about the steps on there. You mentioned priming. So what do you typically prime with on something like this?
I always use, and I've tried a couple different ones, and I'll tell you right now, a lot of them don't work because a lot of them will leave your. I think it has something to do with the type of plastic or whatever that they utilize for the material on the figures, but a lot of them do leave like a really sticky, tacky
Yep.
residue where it won't dry correctly, and
Hmm.
that just ruins a project for me if that happens. But I've always gone to Citadel Chaos Black, and this has always been a winner for me. It leaves a nice matte finish on it, and it's just a great prime. It's either this or like a gray sear that I'll use for the start of all of my custom works. But for the gargoyles, it's always Chaos Black. So I'll base all the parts in Chaos Black to start.
Yeah, I mean those the Citadel primers are definitely, in my opinion, the best around.
Yeah.
There's some other ones that can work, and it depends on what parts that you're doing too. Like if you're doing a torso and maybe some like the armor that's a little bit harder plastic, you may
Mm-hmm.
not have problems with a kind of more basic primer.
Yeah.
But definitely on like those waist pieces, the loin
Yeah. The
pieces, anything
loin,
with a little
the
flex, anything that's a
yeah.
softer plastic,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's the
you end
worst
up
with
with
any
a
other primers. Yeah.
yeah, you end up with a lot of that tackiness that just won't go away.
It
But with the
won't. Yeah.
Citadel, you never have that. Like it dries so flat and just ready to be painted on.
Yep.
It's really perfect. So
Each and every time.
yeah.
Recently, I've heard a little bit about. Obviously, you've probably heard of them too. Monument Hobbies. I definitely want to
Mhm.
try out their new matte black primer because I've heard a lot of great things about that. So I'm very interested to see how that works. So I might try them
Yeah,
out. But
yeah,
like I
and that's
said,
a good.
this is definitely my go-to. I mean, it always will be from now on in.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely got to try new things. I was told the same thing about the Army Painter Black, and while I
Hmm.
will say it's better than like let's say like a Krylon or something that you just get from like Walmart or something, it's still not near as good as the Citadel in my opinion. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
same thing. I would have to try the Monument Hobby one, and I have
Yeah.
heard good things,
Yeah,
but
they always have.
you
They
know,
always all of
yeah,
them. Each and every individual one has that little tweak in their chemical
yep,
makeup that makes it the difference. And whatever Citadel did with this one, they did it right. So
it's so good.
yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I
So
mean?
you start with a prime black, and then what
Yes.
do we got going on?
The rest is basically just dry brushing, and you can utilize, I mean, whatever your favorite gray is. I tend to use the Citadel Gray Sear from the pot, and I don't know if you could see the name of it, but the Gray Sear,
Hmm.
and that's basically the best color that I found that kind of gives it the most kind of stone, effect to it that from
Hmm.
what I look at it. But there's a couple of other ones. There's like administrative gray or like Dawnstone from
Hmm.
Citadel that you could possibly use too if you want it to be a little bit darker or whatever, or maybe start with a dry brush with the darker ones and then almost do some highlighting dry brushing with it with the gray sear, because that'll definitely give it that more like concrete pop to it where it has that almost white effect to it. But that's basically it. It's just a good thorough dry brushing throughout the whole thing. Now, when I do it, just like any dry brushing, and if you can't recommend it enough, but definitely take off, especially with the grays. I mean, if you're doing a dry brush and you think that paint's all gone because you don't
Hmm.
really see it on the paper towel, trust
Hmm.
me, it's there, because as soon as you hit your character with it, it's going to come off like you just threw a whole stroke of wet paint on it, and you're just gonna be like, oh wow, that was way too much. So
Yeah,
definitely
I've got, for anybody that's checking this out that's maybe very new to this, just to kind of give you an idea of what dry brushing is. You like Eric said, you're basically getting some paint on the brush, but then you're getting most of that paint off of there, and then you're lightly brushing it over the figure. And I do have a video coming out later this week on a set of paint brushes that I highly recommend from Golden. And during that, I will show some actual techniques with dry brushing. So if you have some questions on that, just tune in. There's some other stuff, but I while we have Eric here, I wanted to kind of ask you. So as you're dry brushing, obviously there's different ways that you can dry brush.
mhm.
On these types of figures, do you dry brush directionally? Like, do you go like from top to bottom? Do you make circles as you're dry brushing? Like, are you just trying to cover everything? Or are there certain areas that you're trying to hit more than others?
I just do like a side to side pattern,
Okay,
just stroke side to side, and then just keep moving throughout the figure all over as it starts covering. That's basically what I
gotcha.
do. And usually, what I'll do too to test, even for myself. I mean, as many times as I've dry brushed, I've still made the same mistake where I think there's not a lot of paint on it, and then I hit the part and I'm like, oh, that's way too much paint, and I have to actually
Hmm.
like pull it off of the figure. But what I'll usually do is I'll start at the bottom of the feet. Like,
Hmm.
I'll hit the dry brush on the bottom of the feet first to see where my dry brush is. But like I said,
Yeah.
constantly going back to that paper towel to keep on taking off more and more and more. And it
Well,
doesn't matter how many times you do it. You have plenty of time with dry brushing. That's the
yeah.
thing. You can always add more. It's really simple to add more, and it's almost like you do it in layers, because the first couple passes you'll still see a lot of the black shining through.
Yep.
But so that's when you kind of go back over it and just kind of do it layer by layer until you get the look and feel that you want for your own personal taste. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of crap for getting paint all over myself when I'm painting. Clearly on my thumb, I get it
Right.
on my hands and stuff. So like when I'm dry brushing, I've actually got a dry brush palette that I use to try to get most of it off. You can definitely use paper towels sometimes, depending on what your look you're going for. That can absorb the medium in your brush, which will make it kind of look more chalky.
Hmm.
But in something like this, some being chalky might be the way that you're looking for it. Like you want it
Yeah.
to kind of look kind of dusty and dirty and stone like.
Right.
Whereas
Right.
on other things, like let's say you're dry brushing a beard or something, and you want the hairs, you don't want the hair to look chalky. You want it to still look kind of smooth.
Hmm.
Then that like a dry brush palette or something like that can work well because it still gets the paint off, but leaves that medium in it. But then before I put it, just like you said, kind of testing on the bottom of the feet, like I will test on the back of my hand. I will dry
Hmm.
brush the back of my hand. And if I see, everybody's skin you have all these different lines in your skin. And when you're dry brushing the back of your hand, if it just covers the top surface but doesn't get into the crevices, you go, okay, now it should be good to put on there. But
Right.
just like you said, I've gone and tried to dry brush something and it looks like everything's fine. And then you hit one spot of the brush that's just holding a little bit more paint and it just leaves
Yeah.
like a streak there. And you're like,
Yeah, it's like and it's
you know,
totally obvious too when you do
right.
it because it's like, oh, that does not look like dry. It just looks like a
Yeah.
streak of paint across your thing. A lot of
Yeah.
times too, I'll start with the inside of the pauldrons because that has a lot of surface
There, that's
area.
a good one too.
So
Yeah.
I'll start and if it and if my dry brush is a little bit heavier with paint than I want it to be, swiping it a few times inside of that pauldron takes care of it because it takes off that extra paint, and then I could
For sure.
start
Yeah.
moving on to the rest of the figure without doing any damage to it.
So,
Aside from that,
yeah.
outside of the black chaos or the chaos black and the dry brushing of the gray, finishing off all the figures, I always seal them in matte finish. That way, it still contains that instead of like a gloss finish. I mean,
Right.
unless you're dealing with marble or anything, when you're looking at stone, it has that, like I said, like that concrete, dried, matte finish to it. So that's what I finish all of them
Is
off
there
with.
a certain spray that you typically use more than others?
100%. I go with Mr. Hobby's super
Super
clear
clear. Yeah.
matte finish. Yeah, that's like
Same
the
thing. Yeah.
best
They're,
one ever made. I'm sorry.
yeah.
They used to have a
I use
Tester's
both the
brand, but
gloss and the matte depending on what kind of finish I'm looking for. And you can actually use them together. Like
mhm.
you can, so like let's say you didn't want something to be completely glossy, but you didn't want it to be matte. You can actually use the gloss, then hit it with the matte over it, and that'll bring that back down a little bit. But yeah,
Right.
Mr. Super Clear is so good. Yeah.
So good. It's the best one.
Yeah.
They used to have one a long, long time ago when I first started customizing that Jeremy had recommended. It was, I don't know if it was by
Like
Testers or
Tamiya or something. Yeah.
yeah, it was like a Testers brand, but then they
Oh,
stopped
testers. Yeah, that's right.
they
Yeah.
stopped making it, and
Yeah.
it was like a mad dash at the end to try to grab the last cans that were like available in the world. But once they were gone, they were gone.
They
But then
were pretty good, but I do think that the Mr. Super Clear is even better,
oh,
and it's still readily available.
absolutely.
You can get it at Hobby Lobby, you can order it on Amazon,
Yep,
whatever. So,
yep, yeah,
um,
definitely the best one to go with.
so a couple things I'm noticing here. So, like you've got certain areas where it feels like you brought out a little bit more of that, like lights hitting it a little bit better,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
then other areas where it's a little bit darker. And so, do you kind of plan that, like which areas you want to stand out more than others, or like if there was a light coming down from the top, like how you wanted it to hit that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I'm no expert at light or shadows or anything by any effect, but kind of looking at the way people, shoot photography and kind of
Hmm.
learning from the experts and listening to the things that they see, and I kind of look at it in a sense when I'm doing my the gargoyles are the easiest thing for me to do as far as that effect. But yeah, like in the corners, like in the edges, in those corners or in the deep pockets of the where you
Hmm.
could see more of the black shining through. I look at that as if, yeah, if you looked at it, it would be where the shadows would sit
Shadows. Yep.
inside of those pockets. So yeah, I'll dry brush more to bring out the higher end areas with more light to them, and leave the corners, more with the black showing through it, so it seems like it's more of like a shadow effect to it. So yeah, it's definitely, and even in the facial sculpt where the higher
Yeah.
end of his cheekbones rather than the lower parts of his
For
face
sure.
or
Yeah.
have the shadows hitting it. I'll tend to do more dry brushing to highlight those upper areas and leave those pockets a little deeper and a little darker because it just gives it I think it just gives it a great effect, and it's so much more of a realistic effect in a way.
Yeah, and I love the little guy you got on his pauldron here because kind of like you were showing earlier, you started with a figure that had all these different colors and stuff to it, but once you've applied this effect, it makes it look like it's a seamless part that's supposed to be together. Like it's
Yeah,
all one
yeah,
statue.
yeah.
So you've added this. What is this, like a little D&D miniature, or what is this?
Yeah, this actual custom that I did was actually, for me, it was kind of a nod to the D&D community. I actually
Hmm.
went to a D&D gaming or a tabletop gaming store and
Hmm.
found a perfect little tabletop miniature of a gargoyle, and I
Hmm.
thought, what a great idea this would be. So I ended up clipping him from his base, because they all have those bases
Right.
attached to them, and kind of like shaved him down and re-sculpted the bottom side of his feet and legs where he's kind of crouched down, and I
Hmm.
added him to this character as a little minion to his master. And like I said, for me, it was just like a kind of like a nod to the D&D guys, to their whole world. And that's what became of this when I did it.
Now, is that another one that you like had it pieced apart and painted it first and then attached it, or did you attach that here first and then paint it together?
The pauldron and the gargoyle I attached together, because I super glued him in place, so
Gotcha.
he's attached permanently. He doesn't have like a peg or anything that holds him in place. He's permanently attached. So once I attached him, then I painted him and the
Gotcha.
pauldron as one piece. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Beautiful. And then here's a couple other ones that you've done.
Yeah, yeah. Just different styles, and I went from, obviously the first one I did had a bare chested body, so I was really happy with the way that turned out, because obviously all the muscle structure and the sculpt from the 3D, or from the Four Horsemen parts, I mean, are awesome. I mean, there's
Hmm.
so many details, and when you hit it with the dry brush, it's almost like when you prime something where the details just jump out at you. So
Yeah.
dry brushing something like this really gives you like a completely magnified effect of what those details look like. So along with
It's
that, I've tried it with wings and
yeah.
the weapons, whatever you do this effect on it. Like I said, it really makes those effect or those details shine.
It's interesting how like you can take all the color away from this, and then all of a sudden it's like you can see it better.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's similar
absolutely.
to like when you look at like a test shot. Like you
Hmm.
look at a test shot and you're like, oh my goodness, like there's a detail there that I didn't even know was there. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's like
it
for
definitely makes
us,
it pop.
when you get into customizing and you start getting in more into like the 3D printed parts, you look at a part and
Hmm.
you're like, "Oh, this is kind of cool. It looks good. It's great sculpt, this and that." And then you prime it and you're like,
Yeah.
"Holy crap, like this
Right.
is beautiful. Like, oh my God, like there's so
I
many details I didn't even see in this thing. It's
I had one
crazy."
of those with Emil did that new God's Fire set for Legion's
Mhm.
Con, and he's got these pauldrons that have like some skulls on it, right? And
Yeah,
so I started
yeah.
painting and stuff. Well, I started like doing some dry brushing, and at the bottom of the pauldron is like a whole nother row of skulls that are super small, like you can't barely even see it with your eye.
Yeah,
But as
yeah.
soon as you hit it with the dry brush, it pops, and you're like, "Oh crap!" Like
Yeah, yeah.
there's
I
extra
love
detail here that I didn't
Yeah,
even know.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly what this does to it. And like I
yeah.
said, that's why above all the other customs that I make, that's what makes these so fun, because like I said, it just explodes those details, and you just see them, you're just like, wow, I can't believe that's all there. And and
Yeah,
it shows. It shows. It's
the,
not like you
the
have to paint it any different color. It like
right.
they all stand out on their own. So that's what makes it fun.
And the cool thing is like here you've got a figure from a completely different line,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
because of this style that you've used, it all looks like it goes together. It all looks like it's part of the same collection.
Right, right, and why not use one of the gargoyle figures, right?
Right. I mean, it would make sense for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I saw that Bronx, I was like, "This has gotta be." I'm like, "This has gotta happen."
yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, you gotta give it the LeBron gargoyle
yeah,
style. So
absolutely.
any other tips or tricks for folks that are getting started with this that you'd want to impart on them?
I think it's just fun to do with any character that you feel comfortable with trying it on. I mean, I know a
Mhm.
lot of people, and I think it looks great on anything. I mean, if you wanna do a complete night body with a gargoyle remake to it, if you wanna
Mhm.
do, a skeleton with that style, or a dwarfs are probably my favorite body
Yeah.
style to do it with. Obviously, too, you can add 3D printed parts on the pictures that we were just looking at. The two gargoyle style heads came from Wolf King Customs. They
Mhm.
offer those. They're always available on their website, and those are two that Jeremy partnered. I cannot remember the name of the artist who sculpted them. Forgive me, but he partnered with somebody to have those specifically made for that style
Yeah.
of figure. So it's kind of like it goes hand in hand. But looking out for different style head sculpts that work in that style. For
Mhm.
me, the Krotos head was a great one. The demon head from Azar or Zazar,
Razor,
whichever
yeah.
one you want. That
Mhm.
sculpt, that head, it has that statuesque gargoyle look to it. So
Kinda
uh,
makes me wanna see what you would do with an Azahazar, like,
oh
in that
yeah, yeah,
style. That'd be
like
kinda
that whole
cool.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, anything can work, but I kind of tend to look at it more of like if it's going to be a gargoyle style or,
Mhm.
themed figure, like what kind of speaks that. And to me, though, aside from what's available outside of the parts list
Mhm.
or the parts, that are from Four Horsemen, I mean, like I said, you could do plenty of different styles, but you could do helmets and stuff too. I mean, you can do
Malafar would be a cool one.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, or
absolutely.
maybe even a Hellfire Goblin,
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
there's
yeah,
like a bunch of them. There's a ton of
yeah.
them you can do, but like I said, whatever you feel most comfortable with as far as like trying it out, I would think just a basic, Legion builder,
Yeah.
like a dwarf Legion builder or something that's inexpensive
He
and
heck,
readily
even if you just
available.
wanna try the technique, grab a shield, grab an extra shield that you've got
Absolutely.
laying in your bin, and
Yep.
maybe you just make a stone shield, you
Yeah,
know?
the first thing instead of a shield, the first thing I did it was to a weapon. I just,
There you
I
go.
took a
Yeah.
couple different, everybody's got plenty of extra axes or swords or
Yeah, make
whatever.
a stone hammer or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And just like I said, that'll give you the confidence to kind of keep going with that technique and get the feel and see how it looks and yeah, just go from there.
Beautiful. Well, man, I really appreciate you jumping on. I think
Absolutely.
you've given the people a lot to chew on and go out and try. And you know,
Yeah.
it's not, a lot of this stuff. It's just seeing the vision and going out and doing it. It once you start doing it, it's not that difficult. It's yeah.
Absolutely. And I can't say it enough, but I commend our community for not having any type of gatekeeping with their recipes, with their tricks and trades, with their experiences. I mean, we share and share alike throughout this entire community, and I'm always happy to step up to any opportunity to tell somebody how I did something or painted it. I have no secrets in my closet that I hold, from anyone. So I'm just glad that like I said, we're given the opportunity to share with the community and newcomers that want to learn these type of things. And I'm looking forward to a lot of great things coming out of this show, man. I'm really glad that
Thank
you
you. I
got this
appreciate that.
started, and yeah, it's definitely going to be a winner. So if you ever need me or want me on, man, don't hesitate to ask because I'll be there.
Really appreciate that, man. Well,
Yep.
thanks for coming and joining us. I'm gonna put you backstage, close out the show, and then I'll be right back with you. So
See you guys.
thanks, man. All right, folks. Well, that was a little tutorial on making, gargoyles. Check out that Instagram there at the bottom, Late Night LeBron on IG. Make sure you give him a follow. Maybe you'll see him at a California Mythic meetup or see him at Legion's Con. But yeah, if you do use this and create something of your own, show us some pictures. Tag myself and Eric in the Cabal. Put it on Instagram. We'd like to see what you create. So thanks for coming, and till next time, keep creating. Thanks, everybody.